An American F-35 stealth fighter was hit by Iranian fire over central Iran and forced into an emergency landing at a U.S. airbase in the Middle East. This is the first confirmed hostile strike on a U.S. aircraft since this war began 3 weeks ago. And what makes it worse is that America has just been telling the world that Iran's air defenses no longer exist. We need to talk about what exactly happened, what the U.S. military does not want you to know. And later, you will see what this attack means for the future of this war. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps wasted no time. They issued a formal statement claiming direct responsibility for the strike. They stated the F-35 was engaged at approximately 2:50 a.m. local time over central Iranian airspace, using what they described as an advanced next-generation air defense system operated by the Revolutionary Guard's Aerospace Force. Iran claimed the jet sustained serious damage and that the fate of the aircraft remains unknown, with a high probability of a crash. They also claimed the strike followed the successful interception of over 125 American and Israeli drones. Along with the statement came video released through Fars News. The footage appears to show an infrared tracking system following an aircraft and then a surface-to-air missile impacting it on the left side. The final frame shows what looks like a fluid leak beside the heat signature of the engine. Subscribe right now and hit the bell. Because what we are about to break down about that video, and about what Iran still has in the field, is the part of this story that no Pentagon press briefing is addressing directly. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why the most expensive weapon system ever built by any country in human history just got hit by something it was never designed to defeat. Now, is this footage of the F-35 real? Open-source intelligence analysts have weighed in. OSINT Technical assessed that the interface generally matches electro-optical and infrared systems known to be in Iranian service. The analyst noted the footage does not appear to be AI-generated, and that the post-impact physics are too complex for military simulation software commonly used to fabricate combat footage. That is not confirmation. That is an informed assessment that the footage deserves serious scrutiny rather than immediate dismissal. And we need to be honest about Iran's track record here. The IRGC has overclaimed before. Earlier in this war, Iranian groups rushed to take credit for the 3 F-15E Strike Eagles that went down on March 1st. Those turned out to be Kuwaiti-friendly fire, not Iranian. The IRGC also claimed responsibility for the KC-135 Stratotanker crash in western Iraq on March 12th that killed all 6 crew members. CENTCOM stated that crash was not caused by hostile fire or friendly fire. And back in October 2024, Iranian media circulated images of supposedly downed Israeli F-35s that were widely assessed as digitally fabricated. So the IRGC's word alone is not proof. But this time, something is different, and we will get to exactly why in a moment. Drop a comment below right now, before we go further. Every network is reporting the F-35 story, but nobody is asking the question that actually matters. If Iran's air defenses were flattened, as Hegseth said that same morning, what hit it? Tell us what you think is actually still operational inside Iran right now. Because the answer changes everything about this war. Here is what Central Command actually confirmed. Navy Captain Tim Hawkins, CENTCOM spokesperson, stated that a U.S. F-35 was flying a combat mission over Iran when it was forced to conduct an emergency landing at a U.S. airbase somewhere in the Middle East. Hawkins confirmed the aircraft landed safely and that the pilot is in stable condition. Stable condition. That phrasing is doing a lot of work. Stable is not uninjured. Stable is not walked away. Stable is the word the military uses when it does not want to give you a medical update, but needs to confirm the person is alive. The specific variant of the F-35, the branch that operates it, the extent of the airframe damage, the base it landed at, none of that has been disclosed. When the Pentagon has a clean story, they provide details. When the details disappear, the story is not clean. Now consider the timing. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth had told reporters that same morning that the U.S. was winning decisively. He announced that the day would deliver the largest strike package yet flown over Iran. Flattened was the word he chose for Iranian air defenses. Not degraded, not suppressed, flattened. That is not the vocabulary of measured operational assessment. That is the vocabulary of a campaign declaring total victory. And that declaration was made after the F-35 had already been hit. The incident occurred at approximately 2:50 in the morning local time, hours before Hegseth spoke, which raises an immediate credibility problem. Hours after the F-35 incident, Hegseth said Iran's air defenses were flattened, even while the military was still investigating whether Iranian fire had damaged an American fighter. That does not prove he lied, but it does mean his public message was ahead of what had actually been confirmed. And it does not end there. That same afternoon, President Donald Trump sat in the Oval Office alongside Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba and told reporters, "Their Navy is gone, their Air Force is gone, their anti-aircraft equipment is gone, their leaders are gone. We are flying wherever we want. We have nobody even shooting at us." CNN's Daniel Dale flagged the timestamp. Trump made that statement minutes after the network broke the F-35 story. Nobody even shooting at us. We need to come back to that line because the deeper you dig into what Iran still has, the more reckless that claim becomes. If this is giving you the real picture behind what is being said at Pentagon podiums, share this video right now. Because the gap between the language of total victory and the confirmed reality of an F-35 forced down over central Iran is not a small gap. It is the size of a $100 million aircraft on a runway at an undisclosed base. Stay with me because the technology that likely put a hole in that aircraft is something Washington has known about for years. And the reason it worked tells you more about the next phase of this war than anything coming out of the Pentagon briefing room. Here is why this time the IRGC claim carries weight. CENTCOM itself confirmed the emergency landing. 2 independent sources attributed the cause to Iranian fire. The video has passed initial open-source analysis, and the pilot is in stable condition, not uninjured, not fine. Stable. The details CENTCOM is withholding say as much as the details it released, and the part we need to talk about is what may have actually done it. Tyler Rogoway, editor of The War Zone, pointed out that if the video is authentic, the tracking system shown is consistent with a passive sensor, a system that uses infrared and electro-optical guidance instead of radar, a system that emits 0 radio frequency. That distinction matters enormously. The F-35 carries the AN/SQ-239 Barracuda electronic warfare suite. It is designed to detect, jam, and neutralize radar signals. If a ground-based system is radiating, the F-35 knows about it. The pilot gets a warning. The aircraft can react. But a passive system gives off nothing. No radar emission, no signal, no cockpit alert. A passive or low-emission air defense system can reduce some of the warning and jamming advantages the F-35 has against conventional radar-guided threats. But it is too strong to say the jet would receive no warning at all. This is the same category of threat that Houthi forces in Yemen have used to bring down American MQ-9 Reaper drones. It was always a known vulnerability, and Rogoway warned about this exact scenario on March 5th. He wrote that Iran has road-mobile air defenses that can hide and pop up out of nowhere. That they operate exotic systems, including loitering surface-to-air missiles, and that pushing manned fighters into direct attack roles over Iran does not mean those aircraft can operate freely without threat. Most people think the F-35 is untouchable, that its stealth profile makes it invisible, and its electronic warfare suite makes it invincible. In reality, the F-35 was engineered to defeat radar. It was not engineered to defeat a system that does not use radar. And if Iran has deployed passive infrared-guided surface-to-air missiles operated from road-mobile launchers, it does not matter how many fixed air defense sites the U.S. has destroyed. You cannot bomb a launcher you cannot find. You cannot jam a signal that does not exist. And every sortie flown over Iranian airspace now carries a risk that no amount of stealth shaping can eliminate. Subscribe and turn on notifications right now, because we are about to show you what Iran still has in the field. And the list is longer than any official statement has publicly acknowledged. This connects directly to what Iran still has in the field. The Bavar 373 is Iran's most advanced indigenous air defense platform. Tehran markets it as equivalent to Russia's S-400. And while that comparison is debatable, what is not debatable is that the system is road mobile. The upgraded Bavar 3732, unveiled in February 2025, features independent launcher stations. Each transporter-erector launcher carries its own radar, meaning even if you destroy the command node, the individual launchers continue operating on their own. Iran claims the system can detect targets at 450 kilometers, track at 405, and engage beyond 300. Independent analysts estimate the realistic engagement range against an F-35's reduced radar signature at closer to 90 kilometers. But 90 kilometers is still 90 kilometers. That is a kill zone wide enough to cover an entire flight corridor. And here is the financial dimension that makes this even worse. The F-35 program has cost the United States more than $1.7 trillion over its lifetime. It is the most expensive weapon system ever built by any country in human history. A single airframe costs over $100 million. If the weapon that hit it was a surface-to-air missile fired from a road-mobile system, the missile itself likely cost somewhere between tens of thousands and a few $1 million. That asymmetry has defined modern warfare for a decade. But until now, it was playing out with cheap drones against expensive interceptors. This is the first time the cost imbalance has reached the stealth tier, where a system costing a fraction of its target punched through the most advanced defensive technology on the planet. 19 days into Operation Epic Fury, the U.S. says it has struck more than 7,000 targets across Iran and its military infrastructure, damaged or sunk over 100 Iranian naval vessels, and according to Israeli intelligence, driven Iranian missile production to zero. CENTCOM Commander General Eric Kurilla says 70% of Iran's missile launchers have been neutralized. Those are significant numbers. But 13 American service members are dead. Around 200 have been wounded. 5 KC-135 refueling tankers were damaged on the ground at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia from an Iranian missile strike on March 15th. Iran has struck Dubai International Airport, hit airports, diplomatic missions, and energy infrastructure across Gulf states. Aviation Week and Space Technology confirmed drone strikes affected facilities in the UAE and Bahrain. It bombed the U.S. Embassy compound in Baghdad and struck the British base at RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus. The Strait of Hormuz remains contested. Gulf oil exports have dropped by at least 60%, and not a single close ally has joined the fight. Britain refused to send minesweepers despite a direct request from Trump, who called the UK the Rolls-Royce of allies. The EU's top foreign policy official Kaja Kallas said plainly, "This is not Europe's war. We did not start it. We were not consulted." France parked the Charles de Gaulle in the Mediterranean, but will not escort ships until the fighting subsides. China ignored the request entirely. Trump's trip to Beijing has been delayed a month. And then there is the ground question. The IRGC released a separate video this week showing a commander from the ground forces looking directly at the camera and saying, "We have been waiting for this day for years." The 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit out of Okinawa, along with the Tripoli Amphibious Ready Group, has been moving toward the region. The USS Tripoli was spotted approaching Singapore. If a ground component is coming, Iran is signaling it has spent decades preparing for exactly that. Meanwhile, Trump's own top counterterrorism official Joe Kent resigned, stating that Iran posed no imminent threat and that the war should not have been launched. Drop a comment below right now. Trump's own counterterrorism chief just resigned, saying Iran was no imminent threat. An F-35 is on a runway at an undisclosed base with a hole in it. The Allies have not sent a single ship. Tell us what you think the next 30 days of this war looks like. Because the gap between what is being said publicly and what is actually happening in the field just became impossible to ignore. So here is where we are. The plan was flattened air defenses. The reality is an F-35 forced down over central Iran on the same morning that claim was made. The plan was, nobody is even shooting at us. The reality is, CENTCOM confirmed an emergency landing from suspected hostile fire hours before the president said those words. The plan was 4 to 5 weeks. The reality is, day 19 with the 31st MEU deploying and no defined exit. The plan was total air control over Iran. The reality is road mobile launchers, passive infrared systems, and a $100 million jet with a hole in it that nobody in Washington told the commander-in-chief about before he went on camera. The plan was Allied support. The reality is, Britain said no. France said not yet. China said nothing. And Europe said, this is not our war. And the one question nobody in America will answer. If flattened means an F-35 can still get hit. And nobody even shooting at us means a pilot in stable condition at an undisclosed base. What exactly are they going to say when the next one does not make it back? If you made it to the end of this video, you now understand why the F-35 story is not about one aircraft. It is about the gap between the narrative of total air dominance and the operational reality of passive infrared systems, road mobile launchers, and a $1.7 trillion program meeting its first verified hostile hit in combat. Subscribe. Share this with someone who heard the words, "Nobody is even shooting at us," and believed them. And drop a comment below. Because somewhere at an undisclosed base in the Middle East, a $100 million aircraft is sitting on a runway with damage that no official statement has described in full. The pilot is in stable condition. The Bavar 3732 launchers are still road mobile, and the sorties are still flying.